This is football, guys. Chase Daniel is here. Great breakdown. Probably the best I've seen of Shedeur Sanders, the Browns, life of backup quarterback. Then we get into a lot of stuff. The Chiefs, what's going on there, Bo Nix, a little bit of JJ McCarthy talk. We're not high on him at the moment, but maybe there's something there. We believe in Kevin O'Connell. This is football presented by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Download the app today. 21 plus gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ladies and gentlemen, Chase Daniel. All right, Chase Daniel is here. One of the smartest guys in media, was one of the smartest players when he was playing. He knows quarterbacks. He knows ESPN. He works with us now. He does college football. He's going to do all levels of football for us. What's going on, buddy?
How you doing? Good to be back on the show again. Thanks for having me. I guess I did all right the first time. You wanted me back, so I appreciate it.
You passed your audition.
That's all that matters.
That's what it is. That's what I have a friend who, and this doesn't apply to this show because obviously you're amazing and you'll be asked back all the time. They said the only feedback you get in TV is being asked back. That's really it. No one's ever going to be like, hey,
there is no doubt.
You were really, like, everybody thinks that we get like coached really hard, or there's like a producer standing off the desk being like, hey, I really didn't like how you used that word over and over again, and you could have only you should have said it once instead of 5 times in that paragraph. Like, no one tells anything. They just say, hey, can you be here tomorrow? Oh, okay. Yeah. I did it
I'm back. Okay, I got a 2-day contract instead of 1 day. We're good. It's like no one cares right. Like what we say is like, hey, send a tweet to go viral and come on our show and talk about that tweet, and then next day we'll invite you back.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So speaking of clips, you had a great one about Shedeur Sanders, and Deion Sanders Jr. actually tweeted out your YouTube breakdown. I don't know if you saw that. And
I didn't see that.
He said this was a pretty good breakdown. So you passed the Deion Sanders Jr. audition.
Passed the Deion Sanders Jr. audition. Yeah.
I want to start here. There was so much made, and you addressed this in your clip, but there was so much made of Shedeur not getting reps with the ones. And I think that's overblown because, he started as the fourth quarterback. It sounded like he was running scout team most of the time. Sounds like in some cases he wasn't even running scout team if you listen to some of the Browns reporters over the course of the season. He comes in and people say, well, he hasn't got any reps with the ones. And obviously that's just the life of a backup quarterback. Okay.
Yeah.
But knowing what you know about how often a backup quarterback gets to practice, how much attention he's getting in the building, was the performance you saw, by the way, in relief. He wasn't like, it was like, hey, we're getting you ready to start, which is a different deal. In relief, was it about what you expected, worse than you expected, better than you expected?
About what I expected. Look, people that have never played the position of backup quarterback, not quarterback, will never know how insanely difficult it is to come into a game ice cold with getting no reps on the season at all. And you go in there and you play this defense from Zach Orr for the Baltimore Ravens. Literally, Zach Orr called the most insane pressure packages on third down for Shedeur. He didn't do it, Dylan. As soon as Shedeur got into the game, I played for 20 years at all levels, right? 14 years in the NFL. And I'm looking at this and I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, double A gap mug. Like how would I protect? And it's Shedeur has to do it on the run. And it's just, he literally did that on purpose. He's like, hey, you got a rookie quarterback. He knows how the game is played. And that is the biggest misconception of backup quarterbacks. Like, for every team I've been on, I've been a lot. I've been a journeyman. I played on like 7 different teams. I never, when I was not the starter, I never got a rep with the ones ever in season. Now, training camp's different, but the way in season goes, and Luke McCown actually tweeted this out, and I responded, and even Brian, it was like backup quarterbacks unite, man. Like Brian Hoyer, me, Orlowski, like we all like jump, like, yeah, that's how it goes, and you don't, and it's not actually that crazy because the starter will get maybe 40 reps through 3 to 4 practices in the entire week on the game plan. Well, guess what? You know how many game plan calls there are on a game sheet? There's like 150. So going into any given week that you can call, and the starter gets to rep 40 of those, which is all the ones will get during the week of practice, like full speed reps. And so they can't give away the backup quarterback reps. Like, these are not throwaway reps. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen with Shedeur is like, or any quarterback, like this is such a bigger conversation than Shedeur, but when you don't have reps with the receivers and you've been running the scout team, for all intents and purposes, they were playing the Ravens. And so he was Lamar Jackson for the whole week. He didn't rep any of the pressure packages. He didn't do any of that stuff. And so to come in and to actually figure out how to answer the call and to be ready, it's a difficult position. Like I've done both. I've come into a game and I've had a whole week of reps with the ones, which I think Shedeur is going to start because Dylan's still in concussion protocol. So he's going to get a whole week of reps. It's just extremely difficult. And so I would say it's about right on par for what I would expect.
I felt bad because he could have done that touchdown that was broken up by Woozy at the last second. There was a fan and drop. It felt like some guys just need to see the ball go through the hoop, and I think that if he had gotten a touchdown there, or had made it a game, or gotten first and goal or whatever, I think we're talking about a very different situation. Even though his numbers were bad, I just think that people wanted to see something, and he didn't look great. I don't know. There's a lot there. I'll put it to you, just based off of what you saw in college and then what you saw on Sunday, and we're not acting like we have a million data points here at the NFL level. Okay, he came in the second half in relief. It looks like he's going to start this week. Let's not pretend we're making any final judgments, but what does his NFL future look like, just based on what you've seen in the limited time there?
Yeah, I mean, look, there just has not been a really big sample size. What I saw at Colorado was probably what a lot of NFL people and a lot of GMs probably saw. Hey, above average arm strength, second, third round grade. Like I just thought the first round grade just wasn't ever the case, just because you look at the level of competition and then you pull in, okay, well, the type of person he is, I think he's pretty good, but then he rubs people the wrong way, based on who he's at. And I don't get into all that stuff. I try to literally like break down what I see on tape. And then in the preseason, I thought he did some good stuff. It's just the position of quarterback, Kevin, is so difficult to play at the NFL level, especially in Cleveland. Like I don't care if Stefanski's two-time coach of the year. It's just literally where quarterbacks go to die, and it's just is what it is. Like there haven't been a lot of successful seasons at quarterback. Shedeur, to be successful at this next level, he's going to need a cast around him. Like he's going to need a supporting cast, and that's okay to say that. Like there's nothing wrong with that because every quarterback has a supporting cast. I just think that he needs a ton of reps. He needs a ton of work. He needs a full season, which I don't know if he's going to be able to get as reps with like those practice reps are hugely important. But at the end of the day, if you can't go out there and you can't do it in the game, then that's the issue. And the sample size right now is just way too small to tell.
Yeah. What's the biggest, real quick, you mentioned the backup quarterbacks tonight thing. We talk about backup quarterbacks a lot in the episode we did in May, and you can go back and listen to it. It was really good. It got a lot of great feedback. But when people are talking to you at a Christmas party, what's the biggest thing they get wrong about backup quarterbacks?
Well, I don't go to a lot of Christmas parties, although my wife is having one this year, and I'm all in on that. Yeah, so we're having it at our house. I would say the number one thing is sort of like, hey, like you practice, right? Like I'm like, well, no, not really. Like I don't really get any reps. It's hard to. And this goes back to, I mean, we could have a full episode on this, which we won't, but the developmental part of the game of quarterback in general in the NFL, like we have a QB developmental problem. And you go back to Kevin O'Connell's quotes at the beginning of the year, like people give up on quarterbacks way too early.
Yeah.
And they just don't know how to bring these quarterbacks along, specifically if that quarterback you want to bring along is not the starter, because you have to get the starter ready that week. And then, so how do you do it in practice? How do you handle it in practice? Like what I would always used to do, and what a lot of backup quarterbacks used to do, and I got this from some of the stud backups in my day, was like, hey, I run the scout team in practice, meaning I get to go against the one defense for our team. So I'm getting to go against better players, even though I'm not running my offense. However, after practice, when everyone else goes in, I'm staying out there with the quarterback coach and with an assistant in the film room, filming me, and with an assistant equipment guy. And we're going through the practice script. Like I'm getting mental and visual reps in my head of, okay, on this route versus cover 2, 3-step drop, here's a stick. On this route, play action, turn my head, make sure I find this. But it's just a walkthrough. And so I'm walking it through. I'm like breaking the huddle. I'm calling the play. And I think that's sort of what I do think that's sort of a low key struggle for quarterbacks that play in college that are now
Yeah.
going to the NFL is spitting out words. Because I call college right now for ESPN. It's like, hey, I am sitting back there and we're clapping our hands, or we're saying, hey, this plays black, this plays gray, let's go green. And these are the play calls. Whereas you're in an NFL huddle and you're green right slot, Z Mo, fake 37 buster solid, naked right X, sting Z spear, hey, kill 52 tight and right. And you on yellow, hey, we got this check and that. And I'm like, quarterbacks just don't think
Yeah.
like that anymore. So if you're not practicing calling those plays in practice, think about how much slower the game day routine will be. And so I think that's sort of the misconception a little bit.
Yeah, and the college game isn't going to help that because
No.
it's so simplified there. And I remember Rex Ryan saying this a decade ago, and there's a lot there, but Rex's point, so the quarterback play became simplified. And I was talking to coaches where they were saying, but the defense have gotten simplified. And I remember Rex telling me, like, look at colleges. These quarterbacks are just facing quarters coverage over and over and
Yes.
over and
Yes.
over again. So why would they need the Gruden offense if they're just facing the same schemes over and over and over again? So I mean, it becomes harder. And again, if you're not anointed the starter and you're getting all those reps and all those chances, frankly, where it's like you're gonna get a long leash. JJ McCarthy, if he was a 4th round pick, he would not be starting this weekend.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think JJ is a perfect example. One, he never really played a lot in college. Two, if you look at his film, rarely threw the football down the field, and people saw what it could be. And if anyone, it's going to be Kevin O'Connell get it right, but it just is not clicking right now for JJ.
Yeah. I completely agree. I don't know what you do. I don't know. You don't want to ruin his confidence.
You have to play him.
You have to play
like
him.
You made that decision in the offseason, 1, to not go get Aaron Rodgers, 2, to not re-sign Sam Darnold, 3, to not go get Russell, all these guys, because you believed in JJ, and it's just, you got to ride it out.
And I think part of it, you mentioned giving up on quarterbacks too early. I think Kevin O'Connell, having talked about the quarterback journey so much, is not going to be the guy to want to say, hey, actually, we're pulling the plug on this. He's talked so much about patience at the position that you kind of have to put your money where your mouth is a little bit.
I agree. And look, this is a fascinating conversation because we talked about this a lot in the off season, and he says it now, but what happens if there's 2, 3, 4 more losses? What happens if you're the best receiver in football continues going and showing frustration on the field? What happens when you have a Super Bowl roster?
Yeah, Brian Flores is giving you potential wins.
You spent $90 million on offensive line. Brian Flores is giving, like, if you really look at the Vikings, and people are big time JJ McCarthy backers right now, your quarterback is holding your team back right now. Doesn't mean he can't get better with where, and he's only played 4 or 5 games. I understand that. But right now, it's easy to be patient. Let's see how many games they win down the season, and then see if that's the same thing going into next year.
We had Drew Brees on this show a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him about Bo Nix and what he does well. And he had said, the thing about Sean Payton's offense is that it's as complicated as the quarterback can handle. And you can go down. I mean, when Drew and Sean were clicking, it was probably, a library full of football information was being transferred each week, right?
It was.
And so what Drew was saying was that Bo seems like the kind of guy that can make it more complicated, that can handle it, that can put that stuff on his plate. Curious. Obviously, they're winning. There's a lot of talk about Bo Nix's talent. He seems to be a flashpoint. It seems like he's going to become like the Jalen Hurts 2.0, where they just keep winning and everyone just keeps arguing about whether or not he's good, and nobody inside the building cares because they've got a winner. I'm just curious what you've seen from him.
Yeah, I've been a huge, actually, Bo Nix fan from his Oregon days. And as soon as he got drafted into an offense of Sean Payton and the system of, it's like New Orleans West with coaches out there. Every coach I had in New Orleans is now out in Denver, and they have good stuff going offensively. One, I don't think he's playing as good as he did last year, but I think he's playing smarter in terms of he's had a whole season as a rookie. He's going into year 2, and he's sort of fighting that sophomore slump of terms. And look, I've been critical of him and I've been praiseworthy of him. And I just try to like understand what he's going through in terms of
Yeah.
the offense. And then like, let's be honest with you, he's been really poor in the first three quarter of games. Like stats back it up, the eye test backs up, all that. But he's been great in fourth quarter of games. I've never heard of the Jalen Hurts one, but that's
Yeah.
actually not a bad, well, it doesn't really matter because he's
Yeah.
winning. Eventually, though, that defense, who I think is the best defense in football, they are going to give up 30 points at some point this year, I would guess. And then can you score enough offensively? One, do I think there's enough superpower on that offense? No, I don't. I think they should have made a trade for a receiver at the deadline. They never went. I heard Waddle was in consideration, just probably too rich for them. Two, it hurts when you lose J.K. Dobbins. They're going to have to manufacture a 100-yard rusher moving forward. And two, I do think this is a growth platform for Bo Nix, meaning like, hey, your defense is going to do it. And I felt like the Chiefs game was sort of a step forward because you look at some of the throws, the stats might not have wowed you, but you look at some of the throws down the field that he made versus this quarters and too high safety look. And it's the first time I've really felt like this year, other than early in the season when it was, they really weren't playing anyone. I felt like he finally settled down. My biggest thing with Bo was like his footwork was all over the place. He was extremely ahead of the play, meaning you take a quick 5-step drop, but the receiver is not even at 10 yards and he has a 16-yard comeback. Well, of course, I'm going to get off my read because he's not ready. He slowed his feet down. He slowed his eyes down. And we'll just see if he can continue because, as these games go in November and December and the one seed's on the line, like there's a lot of pressure there, man.
What's wrong with the Chiefs right now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, look, I think like if you just want to point at like pure football things, one, the run game, it struggled, right? Like Mahomes has been that entire run offense all year long. I think they got to get more out of the run game. Two, the defensive line, other than Chris Jones, like Chris Jones has played the most amount of snaps he's played in a long time, and they're just getting tired. They don't have anyone to get pressure on quarterbacks. And when that's the case, right, we all know Spags loves to do these blitz. He's having to blitz more. And then there's more opportunities for big plays down the field. But ultimately, like they're not even playing that bad, Kevin.
Right. I agree.
They're just not winning one-score games. They're 0-5 in one-score games. What's their record? 5-5. If they win those games like they did all of last year and all of the previous years, they're 10-0. And so, yes, that's probably why they're still third in Super Bowl odds or whatever it is. But it's just, I think that the level of awareness of opponents understanding we're going to be in these one-score game with the Chiefs. They're not going to blow us out like they used to anymore. And we just have this uber focus and we're going to try to just steal it. And I think that is one of the reasons, like, they're getting teams' best shots in these extremely tense moments, and the other teams are winning every time. And Chiefs are in these tight games. They're just not finding ways to win.
Are one-score games luck? Or, I mean, for me, I think we had Kyle Long on it yesterday and we were talking about it because he obviously played for Andy too.
Yeah.
I think they're giving up. I don't think I know. They're giving up more third and long conversions than they have in the past, and they're going 3 and out more than they have in the past. Like that. Yeah. That to me is how you lose one-score games. So maybe that's just confirmation bias. But is there a type of team, in your opinion? And all the analytics guys say it's luck. I simply don't believe that. I simply do not believe that it's luck and regression and all that stuff. But having been inside of it, what type of team wins one-score games?
Yeah, I don't think it's luck either. I would push back drastically on that. I do think there are a certain type of coach that, like with Andy Reid, situational awareness is super important in NFL football games, meaning third down, fourth down, end of game dynamics, clock management, all of this stuff. And I don't know if there's anyone better, to be honest with you, than Andy Reid in that. I do think there is what you were saying, more 3 and outs, longer third down. The possessions are talked about a lot. If you're getting one less possession because you go 3 and out and they convert and you're getting one less, it's just time of possession, holding on to the football. And I do think that there's an innate ability to have a clutch factor like Patrick Mahomes has had his entire career. Like I do ultimately think, forget all the, and analytics are great, but just forget all of that, forget all the stuff I just said. if you have a quarterback who's a dog in the fourth quarter and can perform under stress, like we've seen Mahomes do time and time again, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
It's interesting because I was at I do ESPN Radio, and Dave Clawson, the former Wake Forest coach, came in. He's buddies with Mike Tannenbaum, came in and just sat with us on Sunday, and I didn't realize that essentially, and I assume this is all good coaches do this. He crossed whenever because Mike Tannenbaum asked him about going for it on fourth down, and he said that as soon as they cross midfield, he'd tell his OC all of the parameters for what he wanted the drive to be, which is a if it's 4th and 5 or shorter, we're going for it. We need to drain this much left on the clock. And like, that's all game. And you just think about how all the good coaches are situationally aware all the time. And this is different, but I was at a college basketball game a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting at the scorer's table. My buddy knew the coaching staff pretty well. And there's like 5 minutes left in the clock or 4 minutes left in the clock. And the coaches are doing hand signals. My buddy said they're trying to speed up their guys because they're trying to maximize the possessions at the end of the half. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, they're already doing the 2-for-1 thing. And it's
wow.
like, you don't think about
No.
that 3 minutes out, 4 minutes out, but the coaches are. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's what you have to do in a razor thin, whether it's college basketball, the NFL, you don't necessarily have to do it in college because the talent difference is so huge that you don't play as many close games. But if you're going to be good, you have to be situationally aware all the time.
And I think that is what you're seeing teams, for the most part, other than maybe Ben Johnson and some other guys, they're going to more of a CEO type coach. Very rarely are now there's still that offensive guru out there every once in a while. But remember, it was like a huge phase, like let's all offense, like 3 or 4 years. Let's all defense. Play caller. And there's just so much more on an offensive play calling head coach that I don't care what you say, you can't think of it all. Like you can't. And that's why CEO coaches are all the rage, or I think they will continue to be, is like, hey, all right, we're going to get a CEO type coach because every single situation, first, second down, like they're thinking fourth down. All right, are we punting? What about this fake punt we've been running for 5 weeks? That's probably not good. Okay, where's the clock? Did we kick? Did we not? Like, there's just so much that goes on. And so many of these coaches are having help up in the booth as well. Ultimately, it comes down to feel. Like Sean Payton, like he's one of the best in the game at just understanding. And he would always say, like, screw analytics. And he uses it, but he's like, screw analytics. It's all feel. Like I'm calling it on feel. If I feel like go, and more often than not, it's like, man, like there's just an intuition on him that I'm like, it's cool. And some coaches get by like that. Some are very analytical driven. That's totally fine too. I think there's a good mesh between them. And I do think that games being played a different way than it has in the last 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. And real quick on the offensive coaching play caller thing, and when that 2 or 3 year period was happening, where every coach who was hired was a play caller, and they were going to call the plays, they were going to have the play sheet. I texted a GM who's really smart, and I said, "What do you think about this?" And he said, "Well, I get it because the thought process is." If he's a good OC, you're going to lose him. Then the quarterback's going to have 3 OCs in 4 years or whatever, and you're going to screw him up, right? If it's the play caller who's the head coach, you're never going to lose him. So you have an infrastructure. But, he said, every coach, even the best ones, will face a mutiny in the locker room or, hey, we've lost 2 and everybody's getting mad. And the thing you can't be doing when the locker room is turning against you is being in your lab coming up with man beaters. You can't be doing it. You got to be figuring out what the hell that's a different trait than what play calling is. So I always thought that was an interesting perspective on it. Anyway, let's get to the end of the stuff here. All right, we're doing badasses again. Most badass person you've ever been around. You give us Khalil Mack last time, so you got to give us another badass. Not Khalil Mack. He's going to go up on the board here. Just the meanest, toughest guy, the best teammate, whatever it is. Give me a badass Chase Daniel.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna stay that Khalil Mack from my Chicago days. I'm gonna go Derwin James. Derwin is like the hybrid role of sorts, right? Like we all know, like all pro guy, but when I got there, he was just making his name, and he was like a superstar, but he was like the coolest guy in the world, the most like legit teammate you've ever seen, the nicest dude, and just a nice person to be around. But then like when he was on the field and I'd have to go against him, it's like He's at linebacker. He's playing rush end. He's playing safety. He's rolling down. Like, he can just do it all. And so for that, he's my badass.
Important question. The guy you're sharing this episode with is Tyrann Mathieu.
Oh, nice. Honey Badger don't care, man.
That's exactly right. Did you play against him?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Arizona,
AFC West,
right?
maybe.
AFC
He was playing when you were with the Chargers. I think that he was with the Chiefs a little bit.
Chiefs. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
you guys played for a lot of the same teams, actually, just not at the same time.
Yeah, we did actually. New Orleans, Chiefs.
Yeah.
We must have. Yeah.
What do you remember about his game?
He was one of like when he was in his prime. Like, he was one of those guys, and I don't say this lightly, but like, everyone remembers Troy Polamalu. And it wasn't necessarily how Tyrann played the game, but it was always, as a quarterback, you had to always know where he was. Because you would think he'd be the key to the defense, but he'd be down on he was doing what Harrison Smith did before Harrison Smith did. Like, he was down on the line, running back to free safety, and you're like, no, you're blitzing, and then all of a sudden he's on the other. And you would always have to, like, he's one of the few people that we game plan for. I remember is like, all right, where's Tyrann?
Yeah.
Like, you'd break the huddle, and usually I'm looking at defensive line, like, all right, what's the front? He's like, all right, where's the safety? Because you would think that he would tell you what to do, and he would never do it, and he was just like opposite of it. So it was definitely someone you kept in the back of your head for sure.
That's awesome. All right, Chase Daniel, tell us where what you're working on as far as games and where we can watch the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, I'm at Texas A&M this week for a matchup against Samford, and everyone knows like the A&M huge comeback, come from behind win. And then we're actually at North Texas on Black Friday on ESPN, the Mothership channel, which I think is really cool because they are still fighting for a berth in the CFP. North Texas, like they've had some amazing wins this year. And then, quarterback breakdowns on YouTube. I just all sorts of stuff. And honestly, I'll be on NFL Live in the off season. So maybe
let's go. Me too.
We'll work together.
Me too. So my guess is we are going to.
Let's go.
Do you know the absolute coaching legend who played football, baseball, and track at Samford?
Jimbo Fisher.
Bobby Bowden. Close.
Oh.
May have been. Did Jimbo Fisher also do it?
I'm pretty sure Jimbo was there at Samford.
I'm not
exactly sure.
He did. He played at Salem and Samford. But as a Miami Hurricane, I would only let Bobby Bowden be a legend. I would not let Jimbo Fisher be a legend. I have very high standards. I have very high standards. I did let you talk about Derwin James, though. That's how much I respect him. I always joke, like, I'm the opposite of a homer with some of those guys, like Jalen Ramsey and Derwin James.
Yeah.
I was miserable watching those guys for 3 years. I have so much respect. I have so much respect for those guys. It's like, Jesus, like Jalen Ramsey took over our stadium for 60 minutes of football. Like, whatever, man. I respect the hell out of you.
Sure.
All right, man. Funny. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, bro.
This is Betting is brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Bet $10 to get $100 in bonus bets when you use code Clark. 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. A little cold the last week. That changes now. You know who else has been a little cold the last week? Kansas City Chiefs. They're 3.5-point favorites at home against the Colts. Situationally, they've gotten a little worse. We've talked about it. Okay? Going 3 and out, giving up longer third down conversions on defense, but they are still performing really well overall. That tends to even out. They are still, I think, a better team than the Colts, even though the strides the Colts have taken. Spags is still able to confuse quarterbacks. Daniel Jones is not perfect. He's not flawless. He can revert back to New York Daniel Jones very, very quickly. It happens this week. Mahomes gets better. Give me the Chiefs, 3.5-point favorites at home, 1 p.m. game. Lock it in.